Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here. So I guess I need to ask first, who here is just starting out in game audio, game development career? Awesome. At least one person. Sweet. I hope this isn't the same sort of stuff, those of you who are already working in the industry or kind of getting through it. But hopefully you find something interesting here, but this is mostly geared toward people who are kind of just getting started. Oh, that's that. So, yep, I'm Matthew Pablo. I'm a game audio director at Other Side Entertainment. They're kind of like a new studio from the old school, like Looking Glass. So they made like Deus Ex, the old school Thief, games like that. Let's see here. That's sort of my quick intro. But I kind of want to talk about how I started, because in my experience, a lot of game audio directors or game seniors usually have a sound design background. I actually come from very, very strong music background. I started playing piano when I was 10, and I actually wanted to. I asked my parents, hey, we have all these Casios and all these Yamaha synths, like, I want to learn how to play that. And so I started taking piano lessons at age 10, and I played a game called Final Fantasy VII, and I was like, what the heck? Why are these MIDI sounds making me feel something, right? It's crazy. So then I asked my piano teacher, like, can you teach me how to write music? And she was like, okay. She whipped out all of these theory books and showed me everything. She was like a master composer from the Philippines. It was amazing. So I started my composition journey at age 10, and I studied music all the way through college. And eventually, I made it to the game industry, just learning how to play piano. So starting out with this, there are three things, I think, that helps you get into game industry. It would be every perspective is unique. Right? Everyone has a different background, whether it's sound design, music, or even something unrelated to music, like art or dance. Even unique non-audio skills also help too. And then different artistic influences. We're talking about Rage. Rage is like my favorite band ever. And I was like, when you said favorite local band, I was like, wait, who? It can't be anyone else, right? So that was awesome. Rage is actually one of the biggest influences for me too. And then every game, team, or project has unique audio needs. Every single project, every single team is different. It's not going to be the same exact cookie-cutter process to get good audio in a game. And then everyone's path into game audio is different. So we have a talk with so many talented people here. If you talk to any of us afterwards, we all had different ways into the game industry. Okay, so we're going to kind of talk about what these roles are. And I'm actually surprised. I do a lot of mentoring and talking to students. And a lot of them, the first thing they ask me is like, where's the job for a composition major in the game industry? And I'm like, whoa, wait, that doesn't really exist. Not really. So I kind of broke down what are kind of the main roles you're looking at when you're working in game audio, whether it's contract work, full-time work, consulting. So I'm kind of starting with the basics here. So there's composers, sound designers, and technical designers. So these are your designers. These are your individual contributors. And what's really interesting about this, you can start to see there's sort of a pattern here, right? Hopefully this will work when I go to the next slide. Oh, okay, ready? Here we go. Boom, okay, so some of these skills exist in other roles. Wow. Which is why one person audio teams get to do all this stuff. It's great. And then you learn, what is the sleep schedule? There isn't one. Yeah. We'll get to that later. So what are the basic skills you need to build? It's this. Take a picture of this. If you don't have any of these skills, like, this is kind of where you need to start. And so what are some of the tech skills you need to build? This is kind of my baseline recommendation. If you're deciding you want to be a composer, maybe you don't really need to learn, how to do basic programming, but I do recommend you check it out and at least try to understand it. It will help you in the long run, especially if you want to compose music for games and be part of the implementation process. So we have Unreal Engine 5, Unity, and basic programming. These things are free now. When I was starting out, there was a huge paywall. Unreal 3 took up like, 4 500 gigabyte hard drives. And it was like, there's no way that's going to fit in there. Because all the sample libraries were like, 50 disks that we got before they started shipping out disks. And then we have Wise, Fmod, and then whatever Unreal and Unity want to give to the audio people without any middleware. And it's nightmarish. And then as for DAW, honestly, whatever you're comfortable with. If you had asked me this 10 years ago, there's probably 2 answers. Cubase, Logic. But now I will recommend Reaper because it has direct integration with Unreal Engine and Wise and Fmod. So eventually, once you get in there, these are the kind of roles you're looking at after you've had some hands-on experience. So you have audio leads, audio producers, and audio directors. These are kind of loose terms in the game industry. I've had all of these titles, and I haven't changed what I do. So for audio lead, usually you have one of the 3, or all of them. Audio producers, I've seen audio producers who don't know anything about audio, and they were just a graphics producer, art producers. Generally, they'll just go in to project manage. And then audio director is a mix of everything. You've done the work, you've put in the effort, you've done all the hands-on jobs. And now you get to do team leadership skills, you do mentorship, career development, and studio development. So this is kind of what I'm new at. I've only started doing these things probably in the last 3 to 4 years. This is a lot of stuff because as I was going through it, I realized it's kind of a short talk, but who's hiring? What do these employers or clients look for? So you can be a freelancer, kind of work on your own, maybe start your own company. You could work for a game studio full-time, or you can work for an audio production studio. What's one? Formosa, that's one I've worked with before. I feel like I'm forgetting some others. Do you guys know any other ones? Hexany, right, oh my gosh. Richard and I go way back. I'm so sorry, Richard, if you're watching. He's not gonna invite me to the next meetup. I'm so sorry. Yeah, Hexany's awesome. So what do they look for these kinds of things? So usually some sort of portfolio, some sort of reel. For when you're working with a client, usually you have a really good relationship with them. Either it's a solid connection through your network, maybe you have a previous history. Rarely you will do a sound design or music test for this. They'll usually just kind of trust you. But for a game studio, this is a little bit different. This is where it starts to become more of the corporate, business, job hire. So they're looking at your resume. They're looking to see if you have ship titles on there. You need to fill that out as much as you can, just so you can get past that initial stage. And if you do have a connection within the industry, it's great to have that because you can kind of skip that. But I do recommend you work on things just to fill out your resume and have something to show that you can do the work. And 9 times out of 10, they will ask for a sound design or music test. And will usually be, game rescores, film resound designs, things like that. And then the last part is going through an interview process. This is new for a lot of audio students, and a lot of my mentees are like, oh my gosh, I have an interview. I have no idea how that's going to go down. There's kind of a meta there. I mean, you're just going to have to get out and practice it. I actually do recommend maybe trying to do some mock interviews. It really does help. Audio production studios are kind of the same thing. It would usually be full-time work, but an audio production studio works on several projects at once. You will be full-time for the studio, not for the game project studio. So here are some of the modern-day game audio challenges. There's lack of positions of roles. There's a lot of us here right now, and just not enough work. However, with a lot of what's happening in the game industry, there's a lot of awesome indie studios that would love to have all of you in there. And I really hope to see a lot of you working for some of those, because some of these projects coming out look really awesome. Let's go to the next one. So this is kind of what I wanted to get into. What they don't teach you might be different now. Yeah, it's a skill issue. When I was going to Berkeley, it was basically like I learned how to write music, and then I learned how to do mastering, engineering, arranging, all of that sort of stuff, but literally, that was it. Hey, you can write awesome music. Now go into the world and go work, and now what? This first point here is huge. I tried to make it big, and I tried to star it because networking skills is a huge one. I feel like we can have a talk about this for 5 hours, but this one is really, really important. The fact that you're here today is awesome. It starts today if this is day 1 for you. And you'll see it has a possibility to grow into a budding career. Something else you don't know, like where to find work to build your portfolio. You can't show up to a game studio and they're like, hey, we'll hire you, you're entry level. Like that doesn't usually happen. I would actually recommend working with other game dev students that are kind of at your level and you guys grow together. How to actually have free time. Yeah, take this seriously, please. Like burnout is super real. Like learn how to have free time. Took me until like an hour ago to figure that out. Finances, logistics, and time management, I mean, kind of the boring stuff, but like, I feel like a lot of people haven't really figured this out yet. Or when they get to it, it's like extremely daunting. But so, sit down and try to figure this stuff out. And then literally anything else that's not audio related. Reel creation, video editing, marketing. They always say people that are musicians have to do literally every job there is. Non-audio game industry jobs. What is that? I don't remember what that was. And then interview skills. Okay, so here's a quote that I've heard 1,000 times when I was in college, and it kind of scared me. And they told us that anyone can do the gig. Obviously, if you have some of those skills I showed earlier. So how do we stand out from the rest? Here we have a picture of, we have more mudkips, right? But this one's special, this one's unique. What is it, like a 4,096 chance you'll run into this one in the wild? So how do you be the shiny mudkip that you hatch or run into in the wild? I think you make your own luck, right? Find yourself in the places where the seeds of opportunity can be planted. You're here today, this could be where it all starts. Think of how it works in Pokemon. You put yourself where the mudkip spawns are and you stay there and he'll show up eventually, right? And you grow and improve from your setbacks. If you didn't land that interview or if you didn't pass the interview, grow from that and learn from that. Get feedback. I highly recommend if you get to an interview phase and they don't tell you anything except for a canned message, I suggest you reach out to that recruiter or whoever told you about the job to get some feedback because it's extremely valuable. And the other point is be versatile. Be open to learning new skills and experiencing everything. And I mean, later on in your career, you kind of have to settle in the one thing that you want to do and focus on that. Jack of all trades, master of none. But, this is the one thing that helped me. I'm like super obsessed with learning different, music genres, learning new, game audio engines from back in the day. We had Fmod, that was like kind of new, and I was super obsessed with it. But being versatile definitely kind of set me apart from other sound designers and composers because I just had a wide range. Yep, and so this is the last part here. Your unique perspective, career path, influences, and experiences sets you apart. Embrace it. If you come from a background where you're like from the automotive industry, dude, you know so much about cars and how that stuff works. You can go and record that. And there's this awesome like car engine demo. I actually met the guy who made that, and yeah, it was great. But things like that, that sets you apart from everyone else. Don't think because you didn't grow up, learning, violin at age 8, you can't do it. I think, your unique perspective is really, really what sets you apart. Yeah, so this is kind of my career path. I'll talk a little bit about it. I started as a freelancer. I started with music, and I was a naive game audio student thinking, okay, I'm going to graduate, and then I'm going to get a full-time job at a game studio being a composer. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. So one time, I was working for a client, and they asked me, hey, can you do sounds? And I was like, no, not really. And then I tried it. I was like, oh, man, this is super fun. Then I had more sound design projects on my portfolio, and eventually I started learning game engine stuff, and that really helped me, land some more interviews for more mainstream game studios. Yep, and that's how I ended up here today. Let's see, what is all this? Okay, I think we're just gonna leave it at that because I want to do some Q&A if you guys have any questions. Thank you. Yeah, over here.
Thanks for talk. I've done like a bunch of freelance stuff over the years, and I'm just curious if you have any advice on going from freelancing to the game studio audio world, or audio production house.
Yeah.
Having shift titles and stuff like that. And maybe what to expect. I know there's a lot of different kind of schedule. I have my own schedule.
Mm-hmm. So is your question? So I think maybe the question was, how is it transition from freelancing to full-time game audio work, right? So this is kind of where you have to make a choice and understand that, you know, the two things are very different in a way. The skills are the same, but when it comes to actually doing the work, it's very different. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can still do freelance work while you're working full-time, but that's not always the case. So there's some benefits to both, right? So what I would say is, you know, embrace the freelance work right now, have all the fun, and then when you start working full-time, you know, kind of grow those skills in your full-time job, really focus on that. And then if you can, try to see if you can still stick with, you know, if you're a composer or sound designer, like, you know, work on game jams, do, you know, fun indie games. If you can, like, keep the creativity going. Because once you go into the game industry, if it's an entry-level job, you're probably going to be like, you know, the equivalent of painting rocks as an artist or something for a little bit, right? But eventually you get used to it and you'll get moved into the roles that you want to grow into. Yeah. Is there somebody? Yep.
Hi, I'm a sound designer and I'm attempting to enter the industry on like a junior or associate level. And one thing that I've been doing a lot of is meeting people and then asking them for feedback. And every time they've been able to give me feedback, it's been incredible and helpful. You know? But you know, one bullet point that you had was don't let it be transactional. I think it was less transactional, more personal.
Yeah.
And you know, when I ask people for feedback, I don't mean for it to be transactional, but I sense sometimes that like, you know, we haven't met each other yet and that kind of thing. You know, do you have any advice on like what I could be asking for or saying so that they feel like I am interested in them as well as their feedback? You know.
So what's sort of like the context of you getting the feedback? Because I think that's important to understand.
I work on projects that I think are like relevant to me, improving my skill set, and then so it's basically like real material, and just like whatever I did that for me was like the cutting edge, and I want to know like, is it translated?
Okay. So I think just generally, my recommendation is like when it comes to networking, I think the number one thing that I've learned, and a lot of us that I've been doing this for a while, is build a personal relationship first, right? And also, when you build that personal relationship, don't make it be like, hey, I'm a sound designer, check out my stuff, like, is it good? Make it more like, hey, let me help you make this cool thing even better, right? Does that kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Was there? We're kind of short on time. So. Oh, okay, well, I'll do one more. So one recommendation I have for small projects like that is if you're still building a portfolio, treat those as if they were very serious projects, because after that's over, you will have a plethora of things to put on your reel and even do a talk about. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.